Hello everyone and welcome to my channel once again. Persisting passwords in plain text doesn't seem like a good idea, right? If for any reason some attackers got access to your database, they will be able to access all your users' account. And even worse, since many people have the bad habit of reusing the same password in many sites, even after telling them many times not to do so, I hope you are not one of them. Things can get worse. Fortunately, Rails offers us a very cool feature called Has Secure Password that allows you to persist your password encrypted in an irreversible way. That means once it is encrypted, you cannot decrypt it again. So in today's video, we will see how to use Has Secure Password. Let's install it in your Rails application. So let's see how would you use Has Secure Password in a typical Rails application. Has Secure Password has a dependency on bcrypt, which is the algorithm that it uses in order to encrypt the passwords. So fortunately, Rails applications already have a placeholder in the JSON file for bcrypt. The only thing you need to do is uncomment this line here, then go to bundle install, to your terminal and run bundle install to get that dependency installed into your application. So once that is done, we can start creating a model which uses Has Secure Password. If you are going to use active record, you don't need to do anything because Has Secure Password is defined in active model secure password, and active model secure password is already included within active record, which is what we are going to do in this example. So as I said, I am going to use an active record model, and to create that I am going to use Rails scaffolding. So in a terminal window I can run the scaffolding generator to create a user that has an email unique address. If you add here unique, which Rails is going to do is it's going to add a unique index on this string email, and then by saying password digest, this will create a password digest string field, as well as also it has secure password to our user model, as we will see later. So if we run that, it creates a migration file here, create users, as I said, with this password digest field here, and then it will also add the Has Secure Password macro in our user model. If instead of using password, which is the default field name for Has Secure Password, we wanted to use something else, like for example recovery password, we would add in the scaffolding recovery password here, and the difference would be that here it will say recovery password digest, and now we would have to provide recovery password here, since this is not the default field name for Has Secure Password. If you use password like I did here, you don't need to add anything else. You can just say Has Secure Password and it will work. So once we run the migration, and to do that, I am going to say bin Rails db migrate. We can start a Rails server and navigate to the users index and add a new user. If you notice, you have also this password confirmation field here added by Rails out of the box. So with Has Secure Password, you don't only have the encrypted password in the database, but you also have some methods like authenticate in order to check whether the user is a legitimate user, and you also have some validations like the password can't be empty, or that if you enter a value on the password confirmation field, then it must match the value that you entered in the password field. But since sign up pages in the Rails application may vary a lot from one application to the other, I am going to show you this step in the console. So let's go to the console again. So now that I have stopped the server and cleared the console, let's open a Rails console session here and see how secure password works. So the first thing that we are going to see is how some validations work. Like for example, not letting you to enter users with a blank password. For example, if you try to create a user, let's say for example with this email address, and we provide a blank password. If we try to persist this user, we see that active record doesn't let us do it. And if we check why, you see that it's saying that the password can be blank. So if we instead provide a password value, like for example, super secret, and now we try to persist this record, it allows us to do that. And if you check this log here, you also see some interesting things. Like for example, as you can see, we entered here a value on this field here called password, but the field doesn't exist in the database. Instead, if you look at the transaction, you see here an insert instruction that is telling to instead persist a password digest value, which is what we saw in the migration before. And as you can see, also Rails is filtering out this password digest value. So this is masked, so it adds security automatically to your logs, which is awesome with capital letters. Thank you, Rails. So also, how would you typically then see if the user which is trying to log into your application is that legitimate user? If you check at the password digest value, you see that it has been encrypted. And before we also said that this was not reversible. That means that we cannot get the original password from this encrypted value here. So fortunately, HasSecure Password also adds a method called authenticate. And the typical thing that you will do in a Rails application is first, if you have the login form, you typically ask the user to provide you an email, and you would fetch the user by that email. Let's do that for the example here, although I have already fetched this user. Let's see that the user provided the email address in the login form. So you would fetch that user, and then you would send the authenticate method to the user and with the password that the user has provided. Let's say, for example, that they provide a wrong password. And then active record checks that and it's returning false. What it's doing here under the hood is applying the same algorithm it used to encrypt the password digest here and check if these hashes match. If they don't, it returns false. Otherwise, if they match, it will return true. So for example, if we try authenticate this time with our super secret password, it matches and it returns the user again. So cool, right? Now let's remember something else that we saw before, which is the password confirmation field. Do you remember it from the form that we saw before? So the fact that Rails hasn't complained about that validation is because if you don't provide any value to password confirmation, it doesn't kick in. But at the moment you provide it, it checks whether the password confirmation value matches the password value. Let's see that. So let's create another user. This time is going to be with the email address maria@example.com and with the password very secret, and then we say that it's enter a password confirmation value, which is a no match. So if we now try to persist this user, we see again that's not possible to do that, and you see that password confirmation doesn't match. So what should we be doing here right now is adding obviously a password confirmation, providing a password confirmation value that matches. In this case, we need to say very secret, which is the same value that we provided for the password. And now if we try to persist this user, it works. So typically, these validations work out of the box unless in your user model you provide validations false to a secure password. And that's it. And that's basically it. In next week's video, we will be seeing a new feature from Rails 7, which is active record encryption. And we also see how it differentiates with a secure password. So if you don't want to miss it, please do not forget to subscribe to my channel. And also, please, if you enjoyed the content, smash that like button. And if you also want me to talk about any topic, please leave me a comment in the comment section down below. So without further ado, hope to see you in my next video. Adios.